Hello and welcome to the 7th lesson of the Language and Technology Scheme of Work. This is the 6th PowerPoint, but there's a task that was at the end of the last lesson for the glossary, which I said will take about a lesson. So this is the next kind of bit of I guess, note-taking and kind of moving on from there. So this is looking at websites in particular, because obviously language and the media, which we'll move on to, mainly looks at text and language that is used on websites primarily, whether it's blogs or news sites or anything along those lines. So just a simple task to start off with using the text on the left. What features do you expect on a modern website? And then what other features might you find that are not on this picture? As always, spend 5 minutes or so. You've got about 5 seconds on the video before I move on. So not strictly using the same image as the one before, I thought I'd try and broaden it out to one that had maybe more incorporated into it. Working from left to right, top to bottom, you have at the top corner, you've got the BBC here, the trusted logo or brand, to show that whatever's put out there is firstly from the BBC and that they are the brand to be trusted in this instance. More and more websites, you've got the idea of registering your details. It means you can target news. It creates a personal relationship. They can kind of target you with adverts or any emails that they can send to you about certain things that they're doing. It builds up a sense that you are buying into whatever the website is doing. Search bars there for easy kind of use, easily finding things, what you're looking for, searching for things. And a lot of this is to do with the ease of use. You see next to it the idea of menus and links that allow easy access to the website so you can click through and find what you're looking for. More and more websites, I mean this is a news website of course, are adding the ability to include your location so you can find local news that might be more relevant to you. Timestamps are a big feature, especially on news websites, because websites constantly update. They don't have that thing where, I guess if you buy a newspaper in this instance, you get the date on it and therefore you know it's the news from that day. They need to show you when this was last updated, when this was last added to, and they often do breaking news stories which then they have to add more information to. So timestamps become incredibly important. They have links to other trending news as well. Often websites get paid for the amount of clicks and the amount of time someone spends on a website. As they're clicking through, they're seeing more adverts, therefore they're making more money. Obviously the BBC is slightly different than that, but they are trying to keep you on the website. Therefore links that show you other things that might be relevant or top stories become incredibly important. Obviously you also have the standard stuff like the headlines. You have sometimes, not always, but the person who wrote the article or the piece. Less so on the BBC, but quite often on other websites you see that. And images that or even videos sometimes that link to what is being talked about. Remember, it is multimodal. It is more than one. There's more than one mode that is trying to share information with you, and that's worth bearing in mind. It says here, as with all text, the audience, genre, and purpose impact upon the content we'll find. This is not suggesting that this website is the only way a website looks. There'll be other things that other websites have. This is a good sort of cross-section of what you might expect. So the ability to update websites consistently, unlike newspapers, has given rise to this new kind of genre almost of news reporting, which is the as it happens news story. And I've given an example here from The Guardian. What it allows them to do, it happens often with sport, but they can do it now with more serious news stories, and you've probably seen it quite a lot in the recent weeks with sort of all the health issues. They update things as you go along, and it becomes a bit more like almost what social media websites look like, with the most recent posts at the top, and then you can kind of go down and check out the rest of it. There are different features and concepts that are included. They are different. They're not reporting in the same way that someone who is writing a news report is reporting. So they have their own kind of concepts and features, and they're appealing to a different audience. So also it takes into account, as always, genre and purpose. So the focus of today's lesson, really, outside of the first task and sort of making a few notes on that, is to look at two different examples of a news report and an as it happens report, and just think about the contextual reasons for similarities and differences. As always, we're looking, so I've left prosodics and phonology off because it's written text. It doesn't really become that relevant to these two texts. But what you have is lexis, grammar, pragmatics, and discourse. I've got two texts that are of the same event. They're both to do with football. They're both because sport tends to, at the time I made this lesson, sport tended to have more of the as it happens examples. So what you have is you have the as it happens for the football match, and then you have the report that came after it. So you need to have a little bit of a look. What do you notice about the lexis, the grammar, the pragmatics, and the discourse structures? And then what are the reasons for similarities and differences? Now, on the last slide, as you'll see, there are 2 links. There should, hopefully, fingers crossed, be fine. But if there are any problems, do let me know, because I think I have original copies of both. But if you click on them, have a look at them, and just find, as I said, there may be similarities. They may use things similarly. But more often than not, because of the nature of the 2 different types of news, they will be different and there'll be reasons behind it. So as always, consider the production and reception, think about the genre, the purpose and the audience, and think about the reasons why things might be different. The language changes to meet the needs of the audience and the purpose of the text. So you need to kind of nail that down first and then consider the rest. Now, I will add this to show my homework, so you won't miss out necessarily, but I'm going to ask you to write a couple of paragraphs comparing the sort of language levels being used in these 2, primarily because I've seen some of your notes and I've seen the stuff that's been coming out, which is really good, but I do need to get some more examples of written work that I can respond to, give you feedback, stuff like that. I will write on show my homework, so as I said, it'll be a comparison of how language is used across these 2 texts. That's it really. It's quite a straightforward lesson. It is more about getting your hands dirty, for lack of a better way of putting it, and just having a look at a couple of texts and just seeing what's there, what's different, what's similar, why is it similar, why is it different. As always, keep well and stay safe, and I'll post another video at some point next week. Okay, bye.